Okay, so today we're going to be making a crepe paper flower. We are using 2 different size petals, small one and a large one. They both look like little balloons essentially. These little ends here are what will attach to the stem of the flower. And we're going to be putting little Lindor chocolates inside of all these flowers. I think that I'll show you a tutorial on how to make a bud to match these, and then also the larger blossomed flower. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's quite simple. First we're going to glue the Lindor chocolate onto the stem. For the purposes of this video, I'm actually just going to bend the stem so it's a little easier to work with and you guys can see. But when you're going to glue this on, you put it on here, and then you'll wrap it around, put a dot of glue on the stem right here, wrap it around, put a dot of glue here, and then wrap it back the other way. And that'll give it a nice stable base where it can sit on. It's important not to glue up here because you'll melt the chocolate. Now, I would say do this at your own discretion because obviously putting glue next to a piece of chocolate is not the most normal thing to do, but I usually do this for like my kids and stuff, so I wouldn't do this large scale making it for other people or anything like that, but it's a fun little thing to give your kids flowers and then have a little chocolate in them. I give them to my mother-in-law every now and then. Fun little gifts for people that I know, and they're pretty easy to make. So here we go. One little dot of glue there, and I do use a low temp hot glue gun, so I'm sure that helps with not burning through the paper or plastic that these things are wrapped in. But yeah, to give it a little bit more stability, I add glue there, and then I didn't do a really great job there, but just wrap it around. So that is the basic start, what it should look like. It's glued on to, this is just like a wire floral stem I use to make most of my paper flowers. Super easy, super fast. These are really cheap too. I can put a link to them later on. So the first step is going to be to use the smaller flower petals. I have a template. I will put a link to my template, but essentially I just put this on the crepe paper, lay it out flat, lay it over the crepe paper, and then when I'm cutting it, I make sure the template is going so the crepes of the flower are vertical right here. I put the template on so the lines are going vertical to the stem, or to the flower petal. And then I just cut it out and I get as many as I can per piece and then just keep on going. So, to prep these little ones, sometimes I add color. I have like this little rose colored stuff, and it's fun to add it in different areas of the stem, or of the petal. Sometimes I add it at the base, sometimes I add it at the tip, depending on the different effects I want. And if you go look at pictures of real flowers, you'll find that they really do have those inconsistency or darker or different colors at the base or the tips of the petals. So as you can see, I pulled, oh, you didn't really see that very well, I'll show you another one. I pulled this middle section here, but I did not stretch out the base of this right here, so I didn't stretch that a lot. And I did not stretch up here. As a matter of fact, I went out of my way to crumple that up a little bit to give it like a little bit more of a crumply look. So next what I'm going to do is you just wrap it around there. Put a little dot on petal. Actually, apply it right to the stem of it. Lay it on, and boom. First petal is on the flower. There's what it looks like. There we go. And I just repeat this over and over and over Crumple up that part. Now you'll see that, see this, how far over that goes? It's like kind of flailing around right there. It looks loose. And this is the central portion of the flower. So I always try to add just like a little dot of glue. Like right there. You don't have to glue it excessively. But I don't know, I just feel like they need to be tight in the center part. Don't add a lot of glue because the heat from the glue can heat up the chocolate inside of the little bud part, but there you are. That's kind of the beginning workings of what this flower is going to be like. Here, let me turn it a little bit. I'm making all my flowers today as a fall color one, so you'll see most of my flowers are going to end up being very much so on the fall path, which is fine. I like it. I think that you guys can make these whatever size you want. This is actually a peony, more like a peony than other flowers, but I don't know, I kind of just made the template up because I really like these flowers that are big and have like big leafy looking petals. I did look up some fall flowers and was like, oh, wouldn't it be good to try something else, but I don't know, I kind of just like the big leafy petals. So that's how I got to doing another peony. I do have another peony tutorial out there, and it actually has gotten quite a bit of popularity. But this one I think is fun. It's a cute little one. And honestly, if you were gonna make just like a quick little simple flower, you could even stop this here. You could actually grab, here, let me show you this. This is actually, not that one. This is more crepe paper that, I think this is also by Leah Griffith. It's just like a green, kind of like a mossy green crepe paper. If I was gonna end this bud, I would take this crepe paper, make cute little leaf patterns out of it, and glue it on and kind of bend them so they go out in a cute little direction. And I would leave it at that. I've made lots of little flowers like that. It's super simple. You can make a lot of them real fast. But that's not what we're doing today. So on the next set of flowers, I start to bend these outward a little bit like this. So and this isn't how I'm going to apply it, but when you apply it, so then it starts to get more volume away from those other petals. So you start to really get that like separation. So I use this little, it's actually a Cricut tool. It's like a scraper tool used for removing stuff from Cricut mats, but I just give it a little twist like that, and now you got a little curve. And then, so I would apply it this way. So you make it so the tail is going away from how you're going to curve it. Pull out the center, scrunch up the sides, scrunch up the top, I should say. And then grab your flower, put the little bunch of glue. Glue down those edges. I have some loose edges before I apply this next one. That's one thing I do think it's really important. You need to make sure you keep this base of the stem pretty tight. I always add a little extra glue as I'm going along because you don't want a flower that's kind of like flopping all around when your friends or family get it. I mean, I think it's nice to have things tight. It looks more professional. It looks more purposeful. So this one's going to be added just like that, and I think it looks super adorable. I don't really have a specific way that you add a specific pattern that I add to flowers. I kind of just rotate it around and find the area that needs it the most. As I add them, I usually try to add them at the same level, and then as I get more toward the outside petals, I start to add them higher up on the stem. So the base part would be higher and higher. Right now we're not there, but we will be soon enough. I should make quite a few petals for this flower. So there we go. You can start to see, like, you can kind of fluff it out however you want it to be. So there's that. Love how it's turning out. So I have 3 more. And I'm gonna curl all of these ones. Once you start curling them out, I don't really stop because I just don't think it makes sense. Like I think in nature, once they start like getting that like outward, like more blousey look, they don't really stop. Like that is how it is, and it's just what they do. So I try to make these flowers look as natural as possible, which obviously makes it more fun when you give them to people and they're like, oh my, that's super adorable. Now I did make a mistake on this first one. I curled actually. If I were to go apply this right now, I would actually curl too far in. I curled this the wrong way. So you always want your tail to curl the opposite direction that your petal is curling in. So this one I will do right. And then just scrunch her together. I have seen people curl these edges, which is, you know, another option, but I don't really like the way that looks, so I feel like I'm not impressed with that at all. Okay, we'll keep going. I'm going to put the one in that I just curled, but I would not advise doing that. I don't love how those turn out. I don't think they look consistent like a petal. Like I feel like petals naturally curl in and then go out at the top, and these, I'll show you what that one did in a second. But in the end, I guess if you want it to be more realistic looking, I wouldn't do that. This one, like, see, this is the bottom part I'd applied to the stem right here, and I curled that way, which I think is perfect. And then I was demonstrating how other people curl these out to kind of like make it open up more. I don't think that's the best way to get an open look on a flower, just because it kind of straightens this top part and defeats when you're stretching this out. So when you stretch this out, it makes your leaf cup a little bit, so it creates like that nice like cradled look in a petal. But when you try to curl this backwards, it gets kind of like almost flat, so you don't get that cupping anymore, so it doesn't look as natural. Versus if you look at these ones, they're cupping well, but you can make them kind of so they curl out just by like adjusting where they sit on your flower. So less glue on the flower gives you more flexibility as to where you're going to place it and how you're going to place it. But always make sure your base of the flower is pretty steady. And you know, I sometimes will add more color, less color, add a center that has with the little stamen and all that, but I just sometimes like to keep them basic. It's less supplies for everyone to buy. It still gives you a beautiful flower. It still gives you this amazing gift and fun thing to do with your kids and nice activity to do. So I do try to keep things a little bit more tame as far as supplies, so we're not buying 10,000 supplies for one art project. Okay, now I'm going through, once I get them positioned, I'm just really like solidifying where these flower petals are going to sit, because as you can see, they're still slightly adjustable. But this is really like the core of the flower. Here we are, you can adjust them, pull it out as much as you want. Super cute, super adjustable, and I just, quite frankly, like even these tiny ones, I still think they're so cute and adorable. And you can see your little chocolate in there, which makes it even more fun. You can actually open these chocolate. Oh, I'm drinking a Werner's right now, in case you're wondering. You can open these chocolates without even taking these petals off. So even after people open them up, they're still super, super cute. I know, because I love Lindors. All right, so now we're on to the big ones. These are big. This is what's going to give your flower the volume. They're very wide. I actually, when I first started doing this, was like, man, those are way too wide compared to the first flower petal. But, you know, I kind of like it. I think it still makes a lot of sense as far as putting it together and making it work. So there's how the first big petal is going to lay. You can see it's kind of like a stepwise change where it just really cups around those little petals so nicely. Look at that. It looks so cute. Straighten that out. All right, I'm going to keep on moving here, and I did do the same cupping technique, and I did curl the base of this flower stem out so it holds on there and gives a little bit of like a nice cupped look. Look at how it's kind of moving out from the stem a little bit, giving some volume. Love, love, love big flowers and those big leafy petals that kind of, they're falling out from the base of the flower, but yet they're not like, they're not loose. That's it. When I was actually younger, I used to tell my husband, never, never get me flowers. It's such a waste of money. Obviously, super money conscious, even at a young age. But besides that, it's even besides the point, I just always felt like they died and was like, man, I just can't justify spending that much on flowers when they're just gonna die. But these don't die, they last forever. I still have flowers actually from 6 months ago that I made. Some that actually from my original crepe paper flower video. These were those first flowers I have came from. I'm going to eventually have like a whole window of flowers, which will be fun to take some pictures and show you guys. So on these bigger petals, I find it to be quite imperative that you put the base line down on the base of this flower right here, but after it's sitting where you want it to do, I always put a little bit of pressure and then make sure it's positioned right. But after you get it where you want it, you gotta put these extra dots of glue, because then if you don't, you're gonna have such a mess. I'm here to tell you it will be a mess. So you can kind of see right here this little piece flying out. That's not what you want. You definitely want to have control over that. That's what I mean when I'm saying like go ahead and make sure you stabilize that base of the flower. It's very important to get that under control and make sure you're creating something solid for people to hold on to and show off to their friends and family. Okay, so just so you know, just because you glue that base of that flower down doesn't mean you don't have something that can become nice and blousy and big and luxurious looking. So you're well on your way to something amazing. Just so you know, I have this petal that's sitting off to my left here. I keep picking it up and setting it down because when I cut these, I just kind of shadow cut around my template. Obviously I don't want to cut my template, but also I like the variability in size sometimes. Like they don't need to be perfectly the template's shape. Like there's some of mine are more oval, some are more round, and you know what? That's pretty natural for nature. So I am totally comfortable doing that, and I think that You guys will have some great flowers, even if you do that. Look at that, you guys. So where I live, we're in the middle of like a big COVID outbreak, and I just think doing little crafts like this really kind of breaks up the mundaneness of staying home so much, and you know, dealing with the stresses of being in a COVID world. This is just such a joyous little thing to do. Happy, joyous, fun craft to do. I do have a 10-year-old daughter, and I do have to tell you, she does not do crafts with me very often. She loves the crafts when they're done, but she doesn't necessarily partake in the creation of the crafts. I don't know if anyone has 10-year-olds who experiences that, but here we are. I'm doing it by myself, which is fine. I think it's fun to give her these things every now and then and have a little chocolate in her and see how long it takes her to find it. Or sometimes I make them for myself and I don't tell her they have chocolates, and then she'll find the flowers later that have the empty chocolate wrapper. I get a little kick out of it sometimes. She did get pretty mad at me one time though. You might not want to eat all of them. In my defense, I'm not the one who ate all of them. I have other kids and friends and family who are over all the time, and I like to give these things away because I think they're fun little gifts. My twins love this stuff. They actually, my kids love Lindor, and they clearly get that from me because I'm a huge fan of Lindor chocolates. It's actually the only like dark chocolate that I ever eat. I think they have the best dark chocolate. My daughter's having a sleepover right now. A few friends upstairs. Just thinking, man, I wonder what they're doing. I'm just kidding. I have someone watching them. I do wonder what they're doing, but I do know that they're being supervised, so don't feel too bad. See, look at how that's starting to open up. Looks amazing. So cute. This little flower right here is a slight wrinkle. So I'm just gonna glue that like that. Now, I wanted to point something out. This flower, I started to notice you can't tell very much right now, but this is actually starting to slip out of the base of this. So I will eventually put some green petals right here, so this glue is not going to matter, but I also don't want my flower leaving the base, so I add a little bit of glue. The glue is not touching my fingers right now, and I would advise you not to put glue on your fingers. Obviously, I always use caution when you're doing crafts. All these different equipments. I have wire cutters for cutting the wire, and hot glue, and obviously scissors I use to cut the petals themselves. All that different things. There's always a potential for injury, cutting yourself or burning yourself or poking yourself with wire or anything. So you don't want to do that. You want to be really careful when you're doing this stuff. That is something I always leave my supplies locked up. Having young kids around and all that stuff, you just can't exercise enough caution. So really be careful, really make sure you're doing your due diligence to keep everyone and everything safe. I also have a dog. She has a knack for getting into stuff, so I really, really have to be careful with her. She can be a little stinker sometimes. We do love her though. She's a beautiful little baby. We love her. We have quite a grand time with her. She travels everywhere with us. Not that that's relevant to making this flower. But the point is, don't leave your craft supplies laying around, or don't leave the chocolate laying around for your animals or whoever to get into, because you don't want any of your loved ones or passerbyers to get hurt by the presence of your supplies. Now when I start getting closer to the outside of the petals, so like the outer petals of the flower, like you can see this is actually getting quite large, and I haven't even started really like making sure these leaves are sitting outward. So the more outward you pull them, the bigger this flower is going to be getting. As I get more to the outside petals though, I start to pull a little bit of this base. So they start out like this, or this is a good one to show you. They start out like this, and then I pull them. I pull even the base of it just slightly. I don't pull at this bottom part, but like right up here I pull a little bit, and it starts to like let those leaves fall out a little bit. It gives it a little bit less stability on that base, which at this point is what you're going to want to start seeing in your flower. So So pull, 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 where you've been pulling this whole time, and then you go slightly toward the base. Pull that out. You don't have to pull it to max. And then you scrunch the tops together. You don't, even when you get closer to the top, you don't have to scrunch those tops as much, but just remember, the more you pull it, the bigger your petal gets. So I try to be a little strategic with that. Some of my glue didn't stick, so I'm just going to reapply it. Hold a little pressure there. This is low temp glue, so I'm not burning my hands by doing this. I highly recommend getting a low temp glue gun. You will not regret it, especially when you're not burning your hands. I'm on my last two petals. I'm gonna pull these to max stretch. I feel like my last petals, even like the last 4, you really can just stretch the material all the way as far as you can go. This stuff has like a 250% stretch, so you got a lot of wiggle room. Look at how big that is. That's huge. So I'm going to apply it right here. Let me look at this, see if it's even. Yeah, I think so. Right over here. It's going to be applied. This is the base. I did stretch out the base of the petal a little bit. I am going to twirl this back. This is super important, especially when you get to the end. I feel like twirling these petals is just very important to give it that give and the flexibility you want, and there's so much that provides for the look of these last few petals here. Now obviously I've told you I give it a little twirl or bend in the earlier petals, but for this one, that extra stretch with that little bend at the bottom of it just gives it so much. These are stretched all the way. And then I stretch near the base. That's a big petal. That is a big one. Okay, so I went over to the other side. See that one of my petals is lifting up. I didn't hold it long enough. So I'm just going to hold that. And then I'm going to apply the last one after I bend the base of the petal outward. See that little twirl? Bends that way. I'm going to go down these other edges. Hold that for a second. Hold this for a second. Okay. So you got a bunch of petals applied. The more petals you grab, more petals you apply, the more you're gonna get a large flower. I'm debating on possibly stopping here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but yeah, I think I'm going to. The more I pull this apart, the more I'm liking the way it looks. So this is kind of like a key step if you want those large flowers. Sometimes I leave my flowers without this last step because I like not every flower needs to look large and glossy and loose like this, but I today wanted a large flower, so that's what I did. Isn't that pretty great? I think it looks amazing. If this flower is going to sit by itself, I would use this green crepe paper right here, and I would create these little tiny leaves to go at the base of the flower. I'm creating a bouquet, so in the end I'm going to make a stem of flowers to go with this, but right now this is it. This looks pretty amazing. I love it. It looks great.